South Africa has started legal proceedings against Israel at the International Court of Justice, claiming that Israel is in material breach of the International Convention Against Genocide, and is now trying. South Africa is now trying to use this court to put pressure on Israel to stop its horrible campaign. This is the news that we are reading today, and unsurprisingly, the Israelis are furious about it. So, what exactly is happening? We have South Africa that came out with a statement, or rather, let's say, the International Court of Justice came out with a statement about what South Africa brought to its attention. That's this letter here, which was issued here by the court. This court is the highest judicial organ of the United Nations. So, in the United Nations, we have the Security Council, we have the General Assembly, and we have other parts of the UN system. And the court that is being used for member states to go and complain about somebody doing something illegal under the UN system, that's this court, the Court of Justice. It is here in the Peace Palace in The Hague. We've seen several cases already brought to this court, among others, very prominently against Myanmar in, I think it was 2019, when Aung San Suu Kyi was still president. And the court has powers to look into actual attempts of genocide, although they take very long. So what did South Africa propose? Here is the official statement. On the 29th of December 2023, South Africa today filed an application instituting proceedings against Israel before the International Court of Justice, the principal judicial organ of the United Nations, concerning alleged violations by Israel of its obligations under the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide in relation to Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. According to the application, and now here the document starts quoting the application, acts and omissions by Israel are genocidal in character, as they are committed with the requisite specific intent to destroy Palestinians in Gaza as a part of the broader Palestinian national, racial, and ethnic group. And that the conduct of Israel through its state organs, state agents, and other persons and entities acting on its instructions or under its direction, control, or influence in relation to Palestinians in Gaza is in violation of obligations under the Genocide Convention. So this is really important. We are not just talking about some rogue actors. This is not just a few rogue soldiers that are killing indiscriminate Palestinians. No, this is state-sponsored, state-mandated slaughter of thousands, by now tens of thousands, of innocent Gazan civilians, which constitutes part of the definition of genocide under the Genocide Convention. So the Genocide Convention is actually a really old document. Let's look at it over here. This is the actual convention. It was first drawn up in 1948. Very ironically, in the same year that Israel was established, and when the entire land grab away from the Palestinians toward the Israelis started, when the Nakba first took place. But interestingly enough, back at the time, I don't think Israel thought where this would be going, because in fact Israel is one of the states that didn't only sign it, but there was an initial sponsor of it. Where is it here? Israel signed the declaration on 17th of August 1949 at the one of the first ones to join, and ratified it in 1950. This is one of the first international treaties for Israel to actually be part of as a state. And this one is now being used against Israel. Of course, at the time, Israel was still the Jewish people all over the world were still recovering from the horrible Holocaust that happened to them, right? The Holocaust that killed 5 to 6 million people in Europe was an absolute humongous crime against humanity, and this Genocide Convention was supposed to help that it would never happen again. Now it's happening again. I'm at the very hands of the people who suffered one of the largest last genocides. But you see, there's a lot of states that are actually part of this Genocide Convention. It's one of the ones that is almost universally accepted as very important and something that must not repeat. So let's quickly read, especially Article 2 of the Genocide Convention. What is the definition of a genocide? In the present convention, genocide means any of the following, any, not all, any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such. Any of the following counts as genocide: killing members of the group, causing serious bodily harm or mental harm to members of this group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. So you don't need to actually eradicate the entire group for it to count as genocide. Having the intent to do so is enough. And even extreme physical bodily harm is enough of a large part of the group. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, or forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. I mean, this is what actually Vladimir Putin is accused of. The Russians are accused of doing, and why the United States screams at the top of its lungs that Russia is committing a genocide. But any one of these constitutes genocide. And for anyone who hasn't been sleeping under a rock for the past 2 months, it is clear that Israel is engaged in massive slaughter of this group of people indiscriminately, right? So, and one thing that is usually difficult to prove, and that was actually had to be proven after the Holocaust happened, was that it is done with intent. The word intent is very important. So it's not just a coincidence. It's not just an accident that a lot of people are dying. It's not just the byproduct of something else. No, the state and state representatives who have power over the state are intentionally killing off these people. Now, for the case of Israel, here at the moment, we have dozens. We have probably by now hundreds of statements by officials, by Netanyahu, by cabinet members who keep using genocidal language, calling people human animals, the Palestinians human animals, and cracking down on not only cracking down on them, but speaking about cracking down on them and pulling off like genocide of flattening Gaza and creating a particle in Gaza. State officials have said so over and over, and they're proud of this. So the intent is absolutely clear at this point. Well, at least for now. Let's have a look again at the application here. The application states that Israel, since the 7th of October in particular, has failed to prevent genocide and has failed to prosecute the direct and public incitement to genocide, and that Israel is engaging in, and risks further engaging in genocidal acts against the Palestinian people in Gaza. So this is well worded, and it's the fact that it is just being done with the consent of the highest people in power in Israel. That's the crime. That's where genocide. That's where the genocide then stems from. That it is being done with national consent of the people in power. South Africa seeks to fund the court's jurisdiction on Article 36, paragraph 1 of the Statute of the Court of Article 9 of the Genocide Convention, to which both South Africa and Israel are parties. The application also contains a request for the indication of provisional measures pursuant to Article 41 of the Statute of the Court and Article 73. Blah, blah. The application requests the court to indicate provisional measures in order to protect against further severe and irreparable harm to the rights of the Palestinian people under the Genocide Convention, and to ensure Israel's compliance with its obligations under the Genocide Convention to engage in genocide and to prevent and punish genocide. What this means is that, for this case to be settled, this will be a huge issue if Israel is going to be willing to send anyone to The Hague anyhow to litigate the case. With the Myanmar case, Aung San Suu Kyi actually went to The Hague and then argued the case for Myanmar, which he at the time presented. I can hardly imagine that Netanyahu or any future prime minister will actually go to The Hague and then defend itself from these accusations. Probably it will just simply ignore it and just be very, very angry about it. But what this part here wants to do is to have a shortcut to say, like, okay, we need provisional measures. The court should give us a ruling that says, Israel, you have to stop this. You must prevent harm to civilians, and further harming civilians would be a breach of what the court rules, because that way the United Nations, the Security Council, would have a document in hand to put pressure on Israel. Now, we must not overestimate what this is. This is not going to end the suffering of the Palestinians, because unfortunately the International Court of Justice is a court without teeth. It has no enforcement mechanisms. What gives a domestic court here at home in our states its power is that it can issue judgments or any kind of instruments that it has, provisional instruments, that then make the police go and apprehend people who commit crimes, right, and put them into prison. And you can physically stop people. You can take their money away from them. You can put them in prison. That's what gives courts power, that it can then wield the state power, right? Now, the International Court of Justice, since we don't have a world government, doesn't have that power. So what this, even if Israel was found to be in breach of the Genocide Convention, all it can do is then recommend, if Israel doesn't stop, recommend to the Security Council that the Security Council should do something. Because remember, the only one who actually can mandate that member states must give soldiers, and then soldiers are being used in order to implement something with brute force, right, is the Security Council. Even the General Assembly can do that. Only the Security Council can mandate binding resolutions that it could enforce with hard power. Now, we all know who is a permanent, who's a veto power in the Security Council. Yes, the United States. The United States will obviously veto any real hard sanction that would come along and would hurt Israel. So, and this is just the proceedings to that, right? Even if after years the case was ended in favor of South Africa against Israel, even then it would just simply be blocked. So that's the whole problem that we have with the United Nations. There's no proper enforcement mechanism. But this is a huge embarrassment for Israel, and you can really tell from the reaction of the Israeli spokesperson for the foreign ministry, Lior Hayat, who uses very, very strong language. Israel rejects with disgust the blood libel spread by South Africa in its application on the International Court of Justice. A blood libel. I mean, he compares it with the accusations that Jews drink blood of Christians. That's what a blood libel is, right? That was this horrible accusation that in the medieval ages and to very long, like, were spread in Europe, and then pogroms were based upon that, right? So he compares it to a blood libel by South Africa. South Africans claim lacks both a factual and legal basis and constitutes a despicable and contemptuous exploitation of the court. Really, you're killing already more than 22,000 Palestinians, and you're still saying that what South Africa is doing, trying to stop you from killing them, that is despicable. Wow. Just wow. South Africa is cooperating with a terrorist organization that is calling for the destruction of the state of Israel. No. Israel, South Africa wants you to stop killing Palestinians. That's all they want. Please, Israel, stop killing Palestinians. For heaven's sake. This is a genocide that you're committing. Stop killing Palestinians. That's all they want. They're not trying to cooperate with the people who want to destroy you. They want you to stop killing civilians. The Hamas terrorist organization, which is committing war crimes against humanity, and sought to commit genocide on October 7th, is responsible for the suffering of Palestinians in Gaza Strip by using them as human shields and stealing humanitarian aid from them. Human shields against what? Against your bombs. For heaven's sake. Israel, you must not kill indiscriminately people. Even if the crazy thing is that even if Hamas literally used these people as human shields, you would still not be allowed to kill them, because civilians are under all and any circumstances under all the human rights conventions we have, especially under the Geneva Conventions, they cannot be killed. You cannot justify the killing of human shields because somebody else uses them as such. Even if that was the case, That's what makes these accusations so crazy. Israel is committed to the international law and acts in accordance with it, and it directs its military efforts solely against the Hamas terrorists. Really? Then okay, so everybody just drop dead, right? When you drop bombs on them, all the civilians just drop dead because out of spite, I guess, because they're anti-Semites. They drop dead because they just want to make you look bad. I mean, okay, the press release is exactly what we would expect. It's just utterly ridiculous, but it tells you that Israel cares. Israel cares about this. This is not something that they can just let go down without trying to fight it. Because at the moment, what we know is that the only hope the Palestinians have is the court of public opinion. Massive, massive public mobilization against the Israel's genocidal onslaught against the Palestinians, massive boycotts of Israeli goods, massive boycotts of all and anything that has that helps Israel to commit this genocide. That's the only hope we have, because the international system is blocked, because the United States still stands firmly, squarely behind Israel, 100%. And the slaughter will go on for as long as Israel can do it. So and physically, materially, it can do it for as long as the United States stands behind it and keeps funding and sending weapons and sending supplies. If the United States or the West did anything similar to Israel and what they did to Russia with all of the sanctions, this would be over very quickly, because Israel is not Russia. Israel doesn't have the resources of Russia. This would be over very, very quickly. And the fact that they don't do that is a second crime for which so far nobody has been even accused of legally. But there is now a first legal action, even if it is by a court without teeth, even if it is long. But this is the best that can be done at the moment. I do hope this moves forward. I do hope the International Court of Justice will have the possibility to come out with, not with a ruling, but with provisional measures very, very soon, because it would put additional pressure, political pressure and public opinion pressure on Israel. And that's the only thing that at the moment we can still hope would lead to some sort of change of that genocidal policy. With that, I thank you very much.